on the afternoon of February 13, 2017, Abigail. Williams and Liberty German, friends from Delphi, Indiana, spent time hiking near the Monon High Bridge. This bridge is part of a trail system. They were dropped off around 1:00 p.m. They were supposed to be picked up later that day. When they did not appear at the meeting point, their family began searching. They then reported the girls missing. A large search operation began with law enforcement and local people helping. The next day, February 14, 2017, the bodies of Abigail and Liberty were found. They were in a wooded area near Deer Creek, not far from the trail. Authorities ruled their deaths a homicide. Evidence and investigation findings. The investigation into the Delphi murders drew widespread attention. Evidence from Liberty German's cell phone proved important. While on the trail, Libby used her phone to record video and take pictures. The photo, Libby took a picture of a man walking on the bridge behind them. This man became the main person sought by police. The audio was also found on Libby's phone. A voice believed to be the suspect speaks briefly. The voice says, "Down the hill." This photo and audio were central to the investigation. Police shared both with the public, asking for help identifying the man. Police released several different drawings of the suspect over the years as work continued. This led to public confusion. Investigators worked extensively. Thousands of tips came in. The case remained unsolved for over 5 years. Police followed many leads and looked at many people. No arrest resulted from these actions for years. Arrest of Richard Allen. On October 26, 2022, police announced a major step forward. They arrested Richard Matthew Allen. He is a 50-year-old man from Delphi, Indiana. Allen faced charges of murder. For the deaths of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, police identified Allen as a suspect after a complex investigation. Reports indicate evidence from the crime scene connected him to the case. The primary evidence discussed in public involved a .40 caliber bullet found near the victims' bodies. Forensic tests reportedly linked this bullet to a .40 caliber pistol owned by Richard Allen. Later court papers filed by the defense mention other possible evidence and ideas about the case. These include claims Allen may have made statements while held by police. The details and if this evidence can be used are part of current court arguments. Current case status. Richard Allen has said he is not guilty of the murder charges. His case is now waiting for trial in Indiana. The court process has been complicated and has faced delays. Questions raised include what evidence can be used in court. There have been disagreements about how evidence was handled by police. Allen has also changed lawyers. The start date for the trial has moved several times. The public and news media watch the case closely. The community in Delphi was deeply affected by the deaths. The families of Abigail and Liberty continue to seek a final answer. Concluding information. The deaths of Abigail Williams and Liberty German are a serious case with wide public notice. The evidence found on the victims' phones was key during the long investigation. The arrest of Richard Allen in 2022 was a big step after years with no arrest. The case is now going through the court system with Richard Allen waiting for his trial. The result of this trial will determine who is responsible for the sad deaths of the two girls. It may also bring some peace to their families and the community. The sun shone bright that Saturday afternoon, May 22, 1971, in Bowling Green, Kentucky, to Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw, both 14. The day promised simple freedom. School was done. Plans filled the air, small plans of teenagers on a warm spring day. They found themselves near the Greenwood Mall. Maybe they sought a bit of fun, an edge of adventure, their thought. Reach Lover's Lane Park, perhaps catch a ride. They knew parents would not approve of hitchhiking. Yet on a day like this, it felt harmless enough. That bright Saturday afternoon became the last anyone ever saw Rhonda and Sharon alive. As evening settled, and the girls did not come back. A quiet worry started in their homes. Calls were made. Neighbors were asked. The worry tightened, sharp and cold, into fear. When Sunday's sun rose, alarm spread wide across the town. Rhonda and Sharon were gone. A search commenced. Family, friends, law enforcement went through the places they might have gone, the park, the trails beside it. Sunday's long hours brought only growing anxiety. Then came Monday morning, May 24th. The search pressed further out. A find was made, gruesome and final. It happened in a thick, wooded ravine off Louisville Road, north of town. Hidden away from sight among trees and brush lay the bodies of the two young friends. The scene spoke a chilling story. A struggle had occurred. Autopsies confirmed the brutal truth. Rhonda and Sharon had been stabbed. Their hopeful Saturday had met an end in violence beyond words. Bowling Green felt the shock deep. An intense investigation began right away. Questions hung heavy in the air. Who had picked up the girls? Who could do such a terrible thing to two teenagers? Detectives followed each lead, talked to every person who might have seen the girls that day, but the path from the mall to that hidden ravine grew faint. Hitchhiking, sadly, made finding potential suspects or even witnesses to them getting into a vehicle hard. Weeks became months. Months became years. The first rush of the work faded. It settled into the cold truth of a case without an answer. The file on Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw stayed open, but answers remained out of reach. Decades have passed since that bright Saturday turned tragic. Over 50 years went by. Investigators through the years have looked at the case again. They hope new eyes or progress in science, like DNA analysis, might reveal the mystery holding the community captive. Evidence from the place the crime happened sits preserved. It waits for technology or one critical piece of information to link the facts. But time stands as a hard opponent in cases that go cold. Memories dim. People who might have known something are gone. Still, the Kentucky State Police and local authorities hold hope. They believe someone, somewhere, knows something. They keep asking the public for help, looking for the detail that might bring justice for Rhonda and Sharon. This might give their families, who lived with this pain for half a century, some peace. The deaths of Rhonda Johnson and Sharon Shaw remain a stark, unsolved piece of Bowling Green's history. They stand as a sad reminder of two young lives sadly ended, and they stand as a reminder of a killer never seen in the light. Justice delivered after 20 years. Man convicted in 1999 murders of Alabama teenagers G.B. Beasley and Tracy Hullett-Ozark. AL insert current date after more than 2 decades. Justice has finally been delivered in a high-profile cold case that haunted the community of Ozark and stunned South Alabama. A local man has been convicted and sentenced for the brutal 1999 murders of two 17-year-old friends, G.B. Beasley and Tracy Hullett. Raymond Clark, who was arrested in 2019 following a breakthrough in forensic technology, was found guilty of capital murder in the deaths of the two teenagers. He was later sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, bringing a measure of closure to families who had grieved without answers for 20 years. G.B. Beasley and Tracy Hullett, both from Opp, Alabama, were best friends. On the night of July 31, 1999, they had attended a party in Dothan and were attempting to drive home when they apparently became lost. They were last seen alive around 11:30 p.m. at a convenience store in Ozark, where they reportedly stopped to ask for directions. Their disappearance triggered an urgent search. Tragically, their bodies were discovered the following morning, August 1, 1999, in the trunk of G.B. Beasley's car, which was found parked off a rural road in Ozark. Both girls had been shot to death, even with extensive efforts by law enforcement. In the immediate aftermath, leads dried up and the case went unsolved. It became one of the area's most noted unsolved mysteries. For 2 decades, the girls' families campaigned tirelessly for answers, keeping the memory of G.B. and Tracy alive and the case in the public eye. The main turning point came years later, with advancements in forensic science using forensic genetic genealogy. Investigators revisited biological evidence collected from the crime scene in 1999 that had been preserved. Using modern DNA analysis, they were able to develop a comprehensive DNA profile of the unknown suspect. This profile was then uploaded 2 public genealogy databases, allowing investigators to find distant relatives of the potential suspect who had voluntarily shared their genetic information online. By working backward through family trees, often with the assistance of forensic genealogists, investigators were able to narrow down a list of potential suspects who would have been related to the DNA profile and were living in the Ozark area. At the time of the murders, this painstaking process finally led investigators to Raymond Clark, who was living in the Ozark area and reportedly worked near the location where the girls were last seen. Investigators obtained a DNA sample from Clark, and it proved to be a definitive match to the DNA profile from the crime scene evidence. Clark was arrested in May 2019, 20 years after the murders occurred. His arrest brought a mix of relief and renewed pain for the Beasley and Hollett families, signaling the end of the long search for the perpetrator. Following his conviction for capital murder, Clark received the sentence of life without parole, meaning he will spend the remainder of his life in prison. No verdict can erase the loss of GB and Tracy. The resolution of this case underscores the enduring commitment of law enforcement and the powerful role of modern forensic technology in bringing perpetrators of violent crime to justice, even decades later.